The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Roman. I'm a forecaster here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and I'll be going over the weather over the next couple of days for you. So right now we do have heat advisories in effect for areas along and east of Interstate I-95, and that's going to be for today for heat indices, or what it's going to feel like, around 105 to 109 degrees later this afternoon. Again, that's mainly for areas along and east of Interstate I-95. And then looking ahead, we may have some heat headlines tomorrow as well across mainly southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. And we do have some more flooding potential over the next couple of days. Here's a look at what the visible satellite looks like right now across the region. We do have some clouds, but they are kind of dissipating some of that stratus this morning. We do expect some cumulus to redevelop later this afternoon, as we are expecting a few isolated, potentially scattered storms to develop later this afternoon into this evening as they move on in from the west to east. So as I mentioned, the heat advisory in effect. Right now, our temperatures across the region are in the mid to upper 80s already as of 11 a.m. with dew points mainly in the mid 70s, but we do have some upper 70 dew points scattered around here and there. With that being said, that does mean that our current heat indices are already in the mid 90s to approaching 100 in spots. So we do expect those heat indices, or what it's going to feel like, to increase to around 105 to 109 along and east of 95, and around 100 to 104 west of 95. And then building on that a little bit more, this is DESI, so we use the HREF to kind of look at some probabilities for heat indices getting to advisory criteria, so around 105 degrees, what it feels like, or warmer. And for today, the probabilities around the Richmond Metro are around 40 to 50%, and then it goes all the way up to 50 to 60% in spots, basically, again, from 95 east. The probabilities here from the models are a little bit lower across northeastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. However, that's probably because the models are potentially underdoing dew points a little bit there. We usually do get some higher dew points near the Albemarle Sound. And then talking about tomorrow a little bit, here's the probabilities for those heat indices, or what it's going to feel like, above 105 tomorrow as well. Much lower around the Richmond Metro and portions of the Northern Neck and Eastern Shore. However, probabilities are higher across far southeastern Virginia, and especially northeastern North Carolina, where you do get some probabilities here approaching 60, 70% down in Bertie County, North Carolina. So this is our region where we're going to be watching later this afternoon to see if the models continue to show the heat indices above 105 tomorrow. And if so, we could be putting out headlines. There is a little bit more uncertainty tomorrow, though, with respect to cloud cover and convection, but I will have a little bit more on that in a few moments. So the pattern over the area, we do have a cold front coming through tomorrow, and that's going to be really the forcing for a lot of the storms that we're expecting. Again, I mentioned today we're not expecting that much in terms of coverage of storms, but because we've been so wet over the past week with so much rain across the entire region, it's not going to take a lot to cause some flash flooding. But tomorrow and Friday, we do have that cold front, so we have that extra forcing, something for the storms to really form off of, and we are expecting much more coverage. We're expecting scattered to numerous thunderstorms to develop tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening, potentially lingering until around midnight or a little bit after. And then we're still expecting quite a bit of coverage of storms on Saturday as well, with that flooding threat continuing. Once we get into Sunday and Monday, though, it looks like coverage is going to be a little bit lower, more of the typical scattered convection that we've been having over the past several weeks now. So once again, today the best chance is going to be basically west of 95 across the Piedmont for any showers or storms that develop. Our total rainfall totals right now are pretty low across the region, but keep in mind that this is just kind of smoothing out all the different rainfall from the models because they're not showing that much in terms of coverage. So even though it's only showing 100th or so inches of rain, you could get an individual storm here or there that drops a localized 1 to 2 inches of rain and causes some potentially flooding issues. And the most likely timing for storms this afternoon is between 3 and 9 p.m. The greater threat is Friday. We are expecting a widespread 1/2 inch to 1 inch, locally higher, across the entire region pretty much, except for the eastern shore. And the WPC excessive rainfall risk really highlights this region as well, with a slight or a level 2 out of 4 chance for flash flooding across much of the region from central Virginia over to southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. And with the storms tomorrow, we could see localized totals of 2 to 4 inches with some of those storms, especially if they train over the same areas. And tomorrow's time frame for storms looks like it's going to be between 3 p.m. to around midnight. But again, it could linger a little bit past midnight as well. And then on Saturday, even though we do have that cold front coming through on Friday, now that we're in the summer, we're not really getting much drying behind this front. So we do expect another round of at least scattered, potentially numerous storms on Saturday. And the best chance here is going to be mainly the southern portions of our forecast area, from south central Virginia over to eastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina, where you could see localized totals of 2 to 3 inches. And depending on how much rain we get the day before, tomorrow on Friday, it could lead to more flash flooding, especially if areas get, like I said, more rain tomorrow. Then they're going to be more susceptible to flooding on Saturday. Here's a general look over the time frame the next few days for storms. Again, it's mainly the afternoon and evenings each day, but tomorrow could linger to around midnight, potentially a little bit after. And then we're not just expecting flooding potential. We do also have a severe threat. We have a marginal risk for severe storms, or level 1 out of 5 today, across mainly the northwestern 2/3 of our area. But again, coverage today is not as great as tomorrow. So while we do have the same risk level technically for today and tomorrow, it's not going to be as many people that see storms today. Tomorrow, we have a marginal as well over a much larger portion of our forecast area. However, the coverage of storms is going to be greater, which leads to higher confidence in getting some strong to severe storms. And then right now, we don't have a severe threat for Saturday, but you still can't rule out a few stronger storms. And for any storms that form today, they should be moving from west to east at around 20 miles per hour. Again, between 3 and 9 p.m. is where we're looking. And only a low confidence in storm coverage and low confidence in intensity. But that time frame between 3 and 9, that is a moderate confidence. We're pretty confident that storms will form within that time frame. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. to midnight is when we're expecting the storms, and they should be moving from northwest to southeast at around 20 miles per hour. So a little bit different storm motion today, moving from the northwest to southeast tomorrow. And tomorrow we're looking at mainly a wind threat for gusts up to 60 miles an hour. However, you can't rule out some small hail as well if the storms get very tall and intense. We do have a little bit of shear tomorrow, which is something we haven't had over the past several days, which could help storms organize a little bit more than what we've seen recently. That being said, we do have a moderate to high confidence in timing and storm coverage with storms expected to develop, and a low to moderate confidence in storm intensity and severe potential. We're still monitoring to see if the models continue to show a highlighted region where we could get some stronger storms. And if that does occur, it is possible that we could see a higher severe risk, but for right now, we're just under a marginal. Now on to the heat. Today is the greatest heat risk day across much of the region. Again, tomorrow is mainly the southeastern portions of the area, and then the heat risk goes down for the next few days below heat advisory criteria by Sunday and beyond. And this again shows today much of the area along and east of 95 around 105 to 109 degrees. So what's going to feel like. Then tomorrow, the southeastern portions of our area. And For those who are interested in the wet bulb globe temperature, we are approaching around 88 for the Richmond Metro, over down towards Hampton Roads and on over to the Eastern Shore. With tomorrow, wet bulb globe temperatures a little bit lower, around 86, 87, down in the southeastern portions of our forecast area. And then a couple of the things I wanted to show. One is that we do have a river flood warning in effect right now, the Blackwater River at Dendron. So this green area is where we have the flood warning, in effect. And that's because the river got up to minor flood stage and is expected to remain minor flood stage until later today, potentially this afternoon or evening, when it goes down into action stage once again. So that is our only current flood warning in effect right now. And then as far as what storms may look like tomorrow, let's see if this will load. So this is one model. This is the HER, and it shows some storms moving in. This is actually today. So this is today from west to east across the Piedmont, then tapering off as they get east of 95. That's around 4 p.m. And then by tomorrow, it shows that larger cluster of storms moving in from northwest to southeast across much of the region. If I go over to another model, it kind of shows the same idea, with tomorrow having a much larger cluster of storms moving in from northwest to southeast. One final thing I'd like to show about that is this is the HREF probabilities for 3 inches of rain in 3 hours. Today, it doesn't have, and that would be anything in red for 3 inches in 3 hours. Anything outside of that is 1 inch in 3 hours. So we're not expecting as much rain today. We don't have any chance of 3 inches in 3 hours showing up here on the HREF, and only a 30% chance for 1 inch of rain in 3 hours this afternoon. But tomorrow, we do have a 30% chance for 3 inches of rain in 3 hours, basically from 64 all the way down 95 and 64 corridors across much of the region from northwest to southeast, including the Richmond Metro and down to Hampton Roads as well. So tomorrow is when we're most concerned about flooding, but we will, again, have to monitor the potential for flooding as well on Saturday. If you have any questions, I'll feel free to answer now. Thank you.